Day one is in the books.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Want some water?
It's showtime. Here is your host, Carolina Dad.
What is going on, Panthers Nation? I got to tell you what. You know what's fun? When the Panthers win. Let's get this started here in just a second. Save it. Scroll it. There we go. Welcome in. Some days I wish I had the trademark to Sweet Caroline because it is fun, man. It is fun when the Carolina Panthers win. But I got to say, before we even get into the game, I am more than pissed off. It has nothing to do with the team, the Carolina Panthers. It has everything to do with the broadcast. This has to be unprecedented territory that we do not have the Carolina Panthers on local TV in the Wilmington market. Folks, the Wilmington market, you can pull it up. It is the 6th largest metro in the state. And then you also have Raleigh, the middle of the state, which has to be the second largest metro. They don't have the game. We got around it. Thankfully, our neighbor, I don't know if he had Sunday ticket or what he had, he was able to get us in so we could watch it. But it was not on local TV. Very frustrating experience as a Carolina Panthers fan to not be able to watch your team. They thought the Washington Commanders and Philadelphia Eagles was a better game. And I get it. There were Washington fans here before the Panthers were even a team. But really? And also, yeah, sure, statistically speaking, when you look at the teams in the rankings, yeah, that's a better game on paper. But I have never seen them take it out. It's almost like it was a blackout. They took it out of market. It was wild. So I listened to the first quarter through radio. And then my neighbor, who's also our friend, was like, hey, we've got the game. You should come over. I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And of course, we sat it out. And now we're convinced that we have to watch the game together. Now, maybe that means I have to come over at the start of the second quarter every game. But what a fun game, man. I swore, we both swore that Panthers are going to lose, we kept saying, like, Nolan was watching with us and our wives, and we were like, they're going to lose. They're like, what do you mean? They're up by however many points. I'm like, you do not understand what it is like to watch this football team. The Cardinals are going to go down. They're going to score, and this game is going into overtime. And then we're going to get into overtime. And I mean, things just typically haven't gone our way. It's been a wild season. I would have to go back and pull up the stats, but I feel like this has got to be borderline the most overtime games that the Carolina Panthers have played in a single season. It's got to be close because that's 3. Giants, oh my gosh. A few weeks ago, and I brain went out against Tampa. And then this week, it's been a journey, but the Panthers finally get over the hump. And I mean, at this point, I saw people online talking about draft picks, draft compensation. I don't care. I don't care where the Panthers sit. The worst case scenarios are going to be in a like top 10 range. They're not going to fall out of the top 10. Sure, they may fall a few spots back if they continue to win, but we need victories going into the offseason. So there you go. The Panthers double their win total from last year. They get to 4 wins. I think they have a chance to get to 5. We'll see. I don't think Atlanta looked great with Penix, or I should say Penix didn't play great, but he didn't play bad. And we'll see. Tampa Bay, who we had their number the first time around, we have a chance to spoil some teams in the NFC South, and that's what we have to do. Speaking of spoiling, Arizona Cardinals eliminated from the playoffs. What I don't know in the whole scheme of this, and I hope there was communication for them to, when we got in and things all blend together because it's been such a day, but when they were trying to go for it way backed up, you knew at that point that they were playing. I originally said they were going to play to tie because they technically, if they don't lose, that's a tie. And I don't know how that shakes out in the scheme of things, but they also knew they had to win the game. And that was a gutsy call to go for it where they were. Panthers defense ends up bowing up and, of course, get the ball back. And it was all Chuba Hubbard, the dynamic duo of Chuba Hubbard and Bryce Young. It was a fantastic day from Bryce Young. I mean, we could talk about his scrambling abilities. He looked great, moving around in the pocket, running when needed. It was effortless. And then throwing some really good balls. The drive where we ended up, he throws the pass to Moore, like over his head, back at the corner, only spot for Moore to catch it. And on that previous play, he got rocked. You had Raheem Blackshear in there. He didn't do bad today. I haven't looked at box scores or stat lines, but you had Raheem Blackshear in the game. And he was so focused on his fake. And I played running back, so I understand, like, not to this level, but he was so focused on running the fake that he forgot to block. And I don't think he sold anyone on it because nobody tried to tackle him. But you see him take the fake, shoot over to an area, and he's just standing there. And then the defender comes straight up unblocked into Bryce Young's face. But Bryce Young delivered a heck of a ball, gets smacked in the face, gets up laughing, man. I feel like for me, this bounce back game was needed. Not that I doubted Bryce Young had turned a corner, but I think for us to leave no doubt, and I talk about leaving no doubt a lot, but to leave no doubt going into the offseason that he is the quarterback of this team, at least for the next year, and they don't have to panic now. They don't have to panic to go out and find another quarterback through the draft. I still anticipate them bringing someone in, but I think Bryce Young has done more than enough. And, you know, every day that passes, the trade that we once thought we lost kind of isn't so bad anymore as we start to see Bryce Young turn a corner. It's the best thing that could happen. Unfortunately for us, the season's done, but got a chance to spoil. I mean, someone from our division is going to make it. It's either going to be Atlanta or Tampa, but maybe we I don't know. You can't force them both not to make it. Somebody's going to make it. Anyways, just beat them both. Make it much more difficult on them down the stretch of the final 2 weeks of the season playing in there. Heck, man, I mean, the whole offensive line too today, real performance, especially when you consider Cade Mays was out, Brady Christensen filled in for him. He is the man. You talk about a utility player that can play any position, get into the game. That dude has got it. Heck of a performance. We're going to get into all the fun stuff around the game in just a minute. Box scores, first half stats, everything that we typically cover in a post game. But I always like to say a little bit before we get too far into the weeds. Buddy, Khalil, yeah, Chuba Hubbard won the game down the stretch, but for you to think that Bryce Young was not a reason that they won the game is absurd. Bryce Young played fantastic. I don't know if you're a Bryce fan or not, but you would have to be pretty dang oblivious if you think Bryce Young did not have a hand in winning this football game, especially when you talk about the defensive performance, because I didn't really want to go there yet, but that defense, sure, they made the plays when they had to, but this defense is so bad. And I get it. We are down as far as you can be in some positions with guys that likely wouldn't be on other NFL rosters, but that's just the state of where the team is. But Bryce Young played a heck of a performance. I mean, you look at his production today and the touchdowns that he accounted for. Sure, Chuba Hubbard technically won the game by running the ball, but to think that Chuba Hubbard was the reason, no, not all the way, man. Not all the way at all. But let's go ahead, folks, and dive in. And again, if you are watching on Facebook or Twitter, X, be sure that you are subscribed on YouTube. We continue to grow the YouTube channel. How to look back over the year. We hit over 1,500 plus subscribers this year. Finally figured out how to do this thing. This thing's starting to take off. Of course, you guys know there's college football content coming. We got a lot of stuff going on. Let's go ahead and jump right in, folks. Starting out, we'll look at the lineups here. There was a lot made this week about the temperature. It was cold. We were borderline, almost like that Detroit game a few years ago, but 37 degrees. I know it was chilly. We, of course, did not go, but I saw everyone bundled up that did go. Let's talk about the starting offense and defense. Tommy Tremble, Ike Ekwonu. Remember, Ike was questionable. Hunt was questionable. They ended up battling through. But Ike, Damian Lewis, Brady Christensen, like we said, got the start at center. Robert Hunt and Taylor Moton. Jadavian Sanders was your other tight end. And then Jalen Coker, Adam Thielen, Bryce Young, and Chuba Hubbard. On the defensive side of the ball, DJ Wonham, Ashawn Robinson, Shai Tuttle, Jadeveon Clowney, Josie Jewell, Windman, Horn, Jackson, Shaw Smith-Wade, Xavier Woods, Damani Richardson getting the nod. And you talk about, I've put a video out previewing the 2025 defensive needs, as well as the players that are coming up as free agents. We got a lot of safeties that are available, cornerbacks as well. But this was a healthy scratch for Jordan Fuller. Doesn't say a lot of good things for him in his favor as we look into next year. Jordan Fuller, Dane Jackson, some of the guys that we thought were going to come around, play big pieces, not so much right now. But solid day all around for some of these guys, especially stepping up in the place. And, you look at Damani Richardson with his interception as well. So speaking of your non-active list, Xavier Legette, we know out, knew that was going to happen. Fuller, Bartholomew, Jones, Evans, Mays, and Walton. We'll actually go down before we get too far into this. I'm not going to get into the final box score. We'll look at the first half box score, and then we'll come back. Actually, before we do that, we'll look at the drive chart summary. Starting with the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals had a punt, only one possession in the first quarter. Panthers did a really good job on that. There, yeah, 8-minute drive. Did a really good job. But they had one punt, a field goal, the fumble, touchdown, a field goal, a punt, touchdown, interception. Honestly, when you go back and look at the entire game, when we got the interception there at the end of the fourth quarter, I felt like that was it, or that should have been it. It was a very critical third down, and I don't understand. There was actually quite a few plays along the way. Going back to the touchdown play, the Kyler Murray run, when they scored, if you recall, it was 3rd and 1. We stopped them. There was a penalty, so it would have been 4th and 1. Canales, it was illegal man downfield. Canales chose to accept the penalty, which I question that. Like I would rather take a shot on 4th and 1, knowing that they've got to run. If you get beat, you get beat. Than giving them 2 plays to get 6 yards. Like odds are just not in your favor. 2 plays versus 1 play. They end up scoring on it. That was one of the downhill pieces to all this. You get the interception. You have another 3rd and short. The play was there, and Bryce Young missed him. But when you have Chuba Hubbard, and what folks did, our beat writers, reporters did a fantastic job in the post game, asking Canales about that. And once he got into overtime, making the decision to stick with Chuba Hubbard in the run, which is what he did, and which is what he needed to do. You know, you analyze this game too. One thing we have to think about: injuries happen across the board, but if Connor does not get knocked out of the game, you do wonder if, Cardinals would have been able to pull this out, because we did not have an answer for Connor all day. Dude was good when he was in. Panthers, on the other hand, had a really good start. I mean, it felt like, hey, this game's going to be a blowout to a certain extent, but of course, Panthers couldn't let that happen. Get all the way up to 20-3. But touchdown does help when you have a really short field on that 3rd touchdown, starting out at the Arizona 30. A punt, and then that was the end of the half. A field goal coming out, a punt, a touchdown, a punt, a punt, a punt. So not a good second half, and fantastic start. But one of the things too is getting down into the red zone, like we saw coming out of halftime, and not being able to execute. Red zone scoring is important. Came down to part of the game. And I think, if we're going to acknowledge some of the mistakes, another big one that potentially changes this entire thing, and we may not even be talking about overtime, or we likely are not talking about overtime, has to be the extra point missed by Eddie Pinheiro. And folks know that I'm a big Eddie Pinheiro supporter. I still will be. But we do have to admit that if he connects, and I don't know how healthy he is, if he's 70%, if he's 80%, it's fine. You still have to be able to do that. And unfortunately, he didn't. He did connect on some later. But when you look at the total and the final and what it could have been, we might not have even talked about overtime if he was able to put it together. But Panthers do enough. Of course, too, when we were watching them in overtime, we looked and we were like, all right, yep, we're going to get the ball and we're going to go 3 and out. And sure enough, that's what we did. Oh, it was frustrating, man. But you know what? Defense came up, did what they had to do. And then Chuba Hubbard, again in overtime, did dominate. I thought the Panthers are going to lean into kicking it. because they had a really nice run, called the timeout, and I was like, okay, they're planning to go ahead and kick. But nope, come out, hand it to Chuba, and bam. That was the ball game. But yeah, like I said, one of the things I wonder on both sides if both coaches, teams knew that if Arizona lost, they were out of the playoffs. Like you would assume that there's some communication going on. But I think if you're Dave Canales, that kind of changes your dynamics of how you want to call and or how you want to manage situations because, hey, they're going to be going all out. And if you're a 3-win team, you also should be able to go all out and should go out all out anyways. But should give you an extra edge. And I think that's part of the reason that they decided not to kick. Go ahead, run the ball. Let's do it. Let's not put it in the hands of Eddie, at least not right now. Panthers get the dub. But let's go ahead and look at we'll come back to the box score stats for the defensive side of the ball. Take a look at the first half summary, and then we'll get into the final breakdown. Time of possession, pretty even. It was 27 at the half. Panthers, again, were up 20-3 at one point. Cardinals had 14 unanswered points. It was 20-17, so we had ourselves a football game. But time of possession, about 16 minutes to 14, so pretty even. On your first downs, it was 12-11 in favor of the Cardinals. I was looking at the breakdown there. Both teams were 50% on third down in the first half, 2 of 4 and 3 for 6. 2 of 4 for Arizona, 3 of 6 for the Panthers. Total yards, 209 for Arizona, 155 for Carolina. 28 offensive plays to 29. I mean, it's pretty even. Panthers had fewer yards when you look at the play breakdown because of the good field position off the fumble. Rushing yards, they had 131 rushing yards in the first half. Panthers had 110. So, hey, Panthers are doing their thing, but we know what they also can't do, which is stop the run. They cannot do it. So that part is unfortunate. But looking at the passing yards, it was actually a really quiet day for Bryce Young initially. When I looked at the box score, I was like, wow, that's it. But it was 78-45. He actually had 45, just 45 yards passing in the first half. He was the leading rusher for the Panthers going into halftime. Red zone efficiency, Panthers were 2 for 2. And so were the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, your first half summary rushing attempts, 4 for 61 for Bryce, 15.3 average. The 34-yarder was the long one touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, 11 carries. I like it. Get him the ball as much as we can. He had 11 carries, 39 yards, 3.5, 1 touchdown. I was listening to the Tompkins run over the radio, so I'm not sure what that one actually looked like, but I know he had 1 for 9, and they were praising it on the not the radio. Mike Boone, 1 for 1. So no touches for Raheem Blackshear in the first half, but we did see him get involved. He had really 1 drive, and I was like, I don't know if I think it was just like the rotation, similar to what we saw Jonathan Brooks do when he was here. Bryce was 5 of 10, 45 yards, sacked once. 1 40 yards was as long. And speaking of Damani Richardson, who did have a good game, also gave Damani Richardson quite the stiff arm. And, I mean, he's not the only one. He broke through a lot of tackles out there. He's a heck of a running back. Panthers did a really good job containing Kyler Murray. I know he got out and he made some plays. He almost also made some dumb plays, especially the interception. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. But 2 for 14 in the first half. And Michael Carter, got to give a shout out to Michael Carter, former Tar Heel, 1 for 6. He did get involved again in the second half. The other thing that was I don't know. The broadcast talking about this being the battle of the 5'10" and under quarterbacks too. I get a kick out of how they want to promote this stuff. Murray was 9 of 12 for 87 yards, 1 sack, 1 touchdown, a 122 rating. And Connor was the leading receiver with 3 receptions, 47 yards. Harrison, 3 for 30. McBride only had 2 for 9. McBride cannot get into the end zone still. Dude is close to, I don't know his stats, if he's over 1,000 now, but close to 1,000. Has not scored a touchdown. That has to drive you crazy. And then it was DJ Dallas had the 1 touchdown. That one just ticked me off. I was like, come on, y'all. Got to do better than that. Anyways, Thielen for the Panthers had 2 receptions for 15. David Moore, 1 for 21. Hubbard, 1 for 5. And Coker, 1 for 4 as well. Not going to look at defense now. We'll go back up. We'll get the full summary and then the team stats again. So we got to see the first half. Now we'll see the full game. Good second half from Chuba Hubbard. I mean, really, a majority of that, or what, half of his yardage, a third of his yardage coming in overtime. I got to do math on the fly, so give me a break. 25 carries, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great day if you have him in fantasy football. I don't know how many people are in fantasy football or playoffs. I didn't realize the league I was in, you score 2 weeks in a row. Doesn't matter. I got demolished last week, so I'm just in there. My lineup's set, but Bryce Young ends with 5 for 68, 1 touchdown. We talked about Raheem Blackshear. I've always liked him out of Virginia Tech. 3 for 13, 4.3 yards per carry, and nothing really changed between Tompkins, Boone, David Moore. Connor, we know, left the game, so he ended at 117. Kyler Murray had a much better second half scrambling. We saw him moving around a little bit more. 63 yards, 20 was his long. Michael Carter got a few more touches with 18 yards. Murray, 20 of 32, 202 yards, final box score, sacked 3 times. Some critical sacks there too. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 77.9 rating. This passer rating for Bryce Young's got to be, I know I talked about the first half, but this has to be one of the best that he's had in his career. 17 of 26, 158 yards. Not a lot in yardage, but it's okay. Sacked 3 times, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He is turning a corner. And for me, I mean, I don't know how many people consistently listen to me. And it's okay if you don't. So if you're just tuning in, that's cool too. I was very hard on Bryce Young. And to be honest, even I would say once he came back into the lineup for the first 3 or 4 games, I was still like, I don't know. And then last week with the performance we saw, even though it was a little bit shaky, I did feel like he needed to come out. I say shaky and a little fluky. I still felt like he needed to come out this week and show us a little something more that, like, hey, that really wasn't me. And he certainly did. And so I'm excited to see him kind of close this out. And for the Panthers, this is their time now to focus on defense. Depending on what defensive front we have next year, if we're running a 3-4 or if we're running a 4-3, if there's changes, we will see. There's a lot that's going to be unpacked, I'm sure. However, we can use anyone and everyone along the defensive front. Outside linebacker, defensive end, nose tackle, across the board, anyone on the defensive front. I know we're going to have Brown back. A'Shawn Robinson is fantastic, but this team needs some help. And the linebacker position, I think, is also going to be another one. I'm not saying you're going to get all these in the draft, just talking through needs of this team. I think the other thing that people do not really understand when we talk about the Carolina Panthers winning football games, playing competitively, the narrative is changing everywhere. People are coming out of the woodworks. A lot of the national media, they've noticed it. Players are noticing it. Like everyone is realizing, one, that Bryce Young is a really good quarterback coming into his own. Those things help. So I want you to think about if this team continued to lose and you're like, oh, but I want a really good draft pick. Folks, free agency, yes, some players are going to come anywhere if you pay them enough money. But at the same time, you want to build a culture that shows players that they should come here because this team can figure out how to win games and they are competitive and they are trending in the right direction. Just think about some of the dumpster fire teams out there. How many people are going to be signing up to go play for the New York Giants this offseason? How many people are going to be excited to walk into a situation without a quarterback? Sure, they're going to draft one. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I want to sign up for that. We've seen this story too many times. So if the Panthers go to draft pick number 8 or 9 or 10, all because they win a few games down the stretch, I'm all for it. All for them being more competitive and building the culture of winning. They don't know how to win. They haven't won in years. Let's continue to build. Get into that 4-win total. Like, it sounds stupid, but that was big, man. I mean, it really is. I would have loved them. I mean, personally, I was more of bullish on like 6 to 7 wins. They could still get to 6. But I when I was bullish, it was like, oh yeah, I love 6 or 7 wins. But in reality, of course, we all want playoffs. And I think just looking at where we are within the division right now, coming into this thing, a lot of people had the Atlanta Falcons is the surefire. Oh, they're going to take this thing. They're going to win the next 2 or 3 years. And you look at what's happened with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Kirk Cousins out the door. And speaking of that, not to get way too far into this thing, we're talking post game. You do have to wonder if he gets cut and is a free agent if the Panthers look at him. I say that because I know that Canales is going to want someone. We got to have a backup. So who's the backup going to be? How competitive does he want the backup to be? We will see. That's TBD. But this team needs to win. Last home game. So I'm all for it. Makes it a much more attractive. Like we said, Kyle, we talking about Bryce Young. Adam Thielen, heck of a day too, man. He actually led in yardage, 5 for 43, 8.6, 1 touchdown. Hubbard, 4 for 13. Tommy Tremble, man. Tommy Tremble had that really good play, 15 yards. Tried to do a hurdle. I'm for it, man. If you want to try to hurdle. But I don't think he was going to really hurdle anyone there. David Moore, like we said, fantastic catch, 2 for 39, 21. I mean, the ball placement and the connection that Adam Thielen has with Bryce Young to the back shoulder fade, just placing the ball where he knows his receiver can catch it, only his receiver. And how about Chisena? And I don't know if this is even close to pronouncing his name correctly. We're going to round this thing up to Cena because you can't see me because he had a heck of a play down the stretch. I know Bryce missed him on the one. I saw him out there, and this is just the trained eye from watching football. You're like, oh, the wide receiver for the Panthers is Adam Thielen. No, you see number 88, Chisena, and man, what a freaking catch and run, 23 yards. It was a perfect play. Panthers have had that play. You go back and watch the Giants game. I remember they had it. They dropped it, or they couldn't connect. A little bit of overthrow by Bryce, I believe. It's a really good play, good concept. It's worked a few times. They connected on it today. Again, the one target that was a miss that Bryce had him. That's on Bryce, but really good day. Michael Carter led in receptions for the Cardinals, 5 for 30. Connor, 4 for 49. Like I said, quiet day for Harrison, 4 for 39, and same for McBride, 3 for 20. So solid performance, no turnovers by the offense. 1 interception by Damani Richardson. Made a great play on the ball there. I mean, it was just a stupid decision by Kyler Murray to throw that thing up. How about Johnny Hecker, man? Good game for him. Booming punt. 57-yarder was the long one, and that helped. Field position in overtime, being able to pin them down, giving us a chance. Tompkins had 2 returns for 4 yards. Raheem Blackshear had 3 for 86. 86, I could talk. One thing, too, I'll say, and I don't remember where, but the delay of game on special teams, how? I tweet once a week, and a lot of people don't care. Like, when you talk about special teams, most people are focused on the kicker. And if the kicker's bad, then all right, that's my take on special teams. I am a tactical person that understands how special teams should work and how we continue not to work. And it is basic fundamentals. Now, I will admit, with turnover in the roster, you've got new guys on there. But if you were the special teams coordinator and coach of this team, your job, you understand the situation. There's only so many plays. Guess what? If it's a touchdown, or I should say, if it's a score by either team, you're either going to have a kickoff or a kickoff return. If you're getting into a situation where it's third down and you're in punting range, guess what? You're going to be punting the ball, or you're going to have a punt return. If you're in field goal range, you have an opportunity for a field goal. It's that simple. So for me, when you get into these situations, it's a mental thing. And I don't know if we need to go back to how you do it in college or in high school, and you get a placemat on the sideline that has a marker for every player. All right, special teams, kickoff team. Like, do we have to be that basic to have guys like we see it week after week? I don't know, man. I'm curious. I mean, I know Canales, they're close. I don't know. It fascinates me every week, and I complain about it, and I will continue to complain about it. Raheem Blackshear, who I believe is the leading Pro Bowl vote getter for the Carolina Panthers as far as the one the most likely to make the Pro Bowl, which is wild. If you are into Pro Bowl voting, please go out, vote for these guys. Chuba Hubbard, Ashawn Robinson, Robert Hunt. There's a lot of guys on this team that deserve to make it to the Pro Bowl. I know the Pro Bowl games and the Pro Bowl itself has changed, but these guys are deserving recognition. All right, final stat line here. 23 to 22 first downs in favor of the Cardinals. Third down efficiency, 6 for 13, 46% for Arizona, 6 for 14, 42% for Carolina. They were 1 for 1 on fourth. We were 2 for 2. 382 yards to 392 yards. Panthers did outgain the Cardinals by 10. Yards rushing, 206 to 243. The Panthers outrushed the team. Now, it all helped because of overtime. Also helped that Connor was out. But to think that the Panthers outrushed the team and they hit the 200-yard mark, I will take that all day long. Really good balance, too, if you look. 36 rush plays. Now, I know some of these were Bryce Young scrambles in comparison to 26 attempts. So you talk about running the ball. Dave Canales called a much better game, getting Chuba Hubbard involved earlier, and I think it paid dividends in the long run. They were averaging 7 yards per carry. We had 6.8. We talked about the passing stats, punts, field goals. We went through all that stuff. So I don't think it's any need to rehash any of that. Both teams were 3 for 4 in the red zone, 75%. And time of possession ended up being almost identical, 33-18 to 33-24. We looked at the ball chart summary. Let's look at the defensive side of the ball. Wyndham was your leading tackler. How about that? 8 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss. 1 quarterback hit, 1 pass deflection. Great game for him. A'Shawn Robinson right behind him with 7, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. Oh, yeah. Mike Jackson, too. Mike Jackson with some really good pass breakups down the stretch. Critical situations, knocking the ball out. He played really good. 6 tackles for him. Xavier Woods with 6. And then we talked about Damani Richardson with the interception. Josie Jewell, another good day. He did have 1 pass deflection, 6 total tackles. Shaw Smith Wade with 5. Good game from him. And DJ Wonham with a sack as well. DJ Wonham's presence continues to be felt on the defensive side of the ball. I believe that is all for the summary here. There's something else we'll pull up. Look at the explosive plays. 10 longest plays for the Cardinals. James Conner run of 40 yards. 38-yarder with a pass, but yeah, that was a weird one. It was illegal contact. I didn't see illegal contact on that, by the way. I just looked like good defense, but whatever. I feel like also JC Horn gets called for something every game now. It's like, I don't know. 36-yarder pass to Connor, 20-yarder. So they ended up having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plays over 15 yards. The Panthers ended up with 9. Really good day for them. Bryce Young's scramble was the longest at 34 yards. It just felt like he was going to keep going with that too. And it was nobody around him. 28-yard run for Chuba Hubbard. Another scramble for 23 yards for Young. Resulted in the touchdown. The pass to Chesina. Pass to Moore. Fantastic day, man. Good win. Good team win for the Carolina Panthers. We talked about the woes on the defensive side of the ball. The woes on the defensive side of the ball, like this team is not going to magically get better overnight. Like we're not just going to flip a switch and this team figures everything out. I can't remember who posted it, but this team's ability, more like their inability to adjust, is well known. And I mean, you play the hand you're dealt. I go back and forth a lot thinking about Ejiro Evero. He's had to kind of go through this. I want to give him credit for dealing with it all, but then at the same time, I just wonder, because every other team in the NFL has to go through some form of this at some point. Got to battle injuries, and just not seeing the results. But I'll take that all day, and let me catch up here. Brian Poole said, let's go, or let's effing go. Sent the Arizona squad home broke. Sure did. Enjoyed it. Yeah, if we could stop the run consistently. I agree. And I hope next year we look forward to the draft here shortly. Coming up soon. That the Panthers are going to find some answers. And also, of course, we know addressing free agency. If Barkley didn't exist, Hubbard is the best running back in the game. He is, man. He is. I'd say he is one of the best. I also think Derrick Henry should get acknowledgement, but I would say he absolutely is one of the best. And I don't remember who put this out there. Hold on. I have to pull it up because I just had it in front of me. Oh, man, the guy deleted his tweet. Oh, man, what a lame-o. Freaking garbage. There was a tweet from, I don't even know the guy. Hold on. Well, he deleted it. he said, he said something along the lines of like, I can't believe Chuba Hubbard was the one to send Arizona home and eliminate them from the playoffs. But that wasn't his exact wording. He said it in a way that was like condescending about Chuba Hubbard. And I was like, what is this supposed to mean? And every single person was bashing him for it, which is funny. But I guess then was like, no, okay, I'm going to delete it. So there you go. Yeah, man. I mean, good year for Chuba. I haven't looked. Part of the bummer thing about, as you get towards the end of the season and your team's eliminated, like I stay in the know with what's happening, but at the same time, I'm a step back. I wanted to see rushing leaders. Oh, a few guys have been there. So Chuba Hubbard is now number 7. He's only 4 yards behind Jahmyr Gibbs. Bijan Robinson having a pretty good year for Atlanta. That does worry me coming up. Can't stop the run. Kyron Williams for the Chargers, 1,100 yards. Josh Jacobs for Green Bay, 1,100. Derrick Henry is like 40 to 50 yards short, but he's played one more. I guess these stats probably haven't updated because I'm on NFL.com. But anyways. Well, folks, we've got 2 games to go. I know it's a pretty big week here in the United States. I know people listen across the country. I'll have content coming out, probably going to be a little bit later in the week as we and I take time off. So you'll still see more stuff popping up on here, just not as much as you normally do. We'll have the game preview, everything else. And as always, folks, I appreciate y'all tuning into the show. I think that's going to be a wrap for me tonight. Let me see if I can close this out. Maybe if this works. But until then, hope you guys have Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all the fun stuff. And how about them Panthers?